Hi students, welcome to Shaker's History classes. We are doing this video as part of Prelims and Mains 2022 series. In previous two classes, we have seen the emergence of Islamic caliphates in West Asia, the rise of Islam and how the Islam impacted the political system in West Asia. It resulted in the establishment of caliphates, Umayyad Caliphate, Rashidun Caliphate and Abbasid Caliphate. Such kind of caliphates emerged. And also we have seen the rise of Turkish states as well in present day Afghanistan, Iran and Central Asian regions. In this video, our focus is how these two developments had an impact on India's security and India's political system. In this video, our point of discussion is about the Arab conquest of Sindh region and the Turkish invasions under Ghazni Muhammad. Let us see. Just we firstly see the rise of Islam, then we will go to the Arab conquest. During the lifetime of Prophet Muhammad, the Islamic community spread in the Saudi Arabian Peninsula. Through traders, Islam also reached Indian subcontinent. The first identified mosque also can be found in present-day Kerala region. That mosque or masjid was Cheraman Juma Masjid. A tradition claims that it was built in 629. It is located in present-day Thrissur district. 629 is the year. According to this tradition, 629 means Prophet Muhammad was still alive. What is the timeline of Prophet Muhammad? He was living between 570 to 632 AD. This is the time period or lifetime of Prophet Muhammad. Up to 632 AD he was alive. Now this is 629. This shows that the first mosque in the Indian subcontinent was constructed during the lifetime of Prophet Muhammad. It had very great importance for the Muslim community in India. For this purpose, even our Indian government used this tradition as a part of diplomacy also. For example, in 2016, our Prime Minister Narendra Modi presented a gold-plated replica of this particular masjid to the King of Saudi Arabia. This is the model, and in PMO Twitter handle also it was said, Cheraman Juma Masjid is symbolic of active trade relations between India and Saudi Arabia since ancient times. So this is the kind of impact during the lifetime of Prophet Muhammad itself felt on Indian subcontinent. Now we will move. After Prophet Muhammad's death, the political successors emerged in the form of caliphates or caliphs. Caliph was called the leader of religious community and political community. Different dynasties ruled these Islamic kingdoms or Islamic empires. Rashidun Caliphate, for some time they ruled, and later Umayyad Caliphate, Abbasid Caliphate, later Mamluk, Ottoman Caliphate. Different dynasties took the leadership of Islamic community. Here we are concerned about the first topic of this video is the Arab conquest. The Arab conquered the Sindh region of Indian subcontinent in 712. In 712, who was the caliph or the caliphate? Umayyad Caliphate. They were there. Under their leadership, a commander called Muhammad bin Qasim, he was sent to Sindh to conquer this region. Finally, he did it very successfully. In 712 AD, Sindh became part of Umayyad Caliphate. This is the position. Umayyad Caliphate, they sent army under Muhammad bin Qasim. He reached Sindh region and he conquered it, and it became part of Umayyad Caliphate. Before they reached Sindh, they have already conquered Persia. The time period, the last previous empire, Sasanian Empire was completely liquidated in 651 AD. Now you see, 632 AD was the death of Prophet Muhammad. Within few decades, they reached into many different parts of the world. That is the kind of strength, vigor they have shown in the initial phases of Islam. Persia itself now conquered by Arab forces. Now they reached Sindh region as well by 712. Here they have Arabs called the Sindh region as Al-Sindh. The region beyond Sindhu river is called as Al-Hind. Al-Hind is the term given to the land beyond Sindhu river. This is very important. UPSC has asked a question on this also previously. So the word Hindu was given by Arabs. So this is the important aspect here, we have to note it down. After conquering Sindh region, now they wanted to expand their territory into Al-Hind as well. However, here the powerful rulers were there. These powerful rulers, they successfully handled the Arab forces and they successfully stopped at the borders of Sindh itself. This is the Umayyad Caliphate. They expanded their territories into different parts. Sindh was also captured by Umayyad Caliphate. Now during these circumstances, Indian rulers were powerful rulers in the form of Chalukyan dynasty. During this time period, even in 700s, after the conquest of Sindh, they tried to conquer the mainland also. They tried to invade. However, Chalukyas were very powerful. A ruler called Vikramaditya II. Vikramaditya II of Chalukyan dynasty. These Chalukyas are Badami Chalukyas. We are in 700s. So 700 still Badami Chalukyas were there. Later these Badami Chalukyas are going to be replaced by Rashtrakutas. They were also very powerful. During their lifetime also, they controlled the invasive forces from Arabia. Badami Chalukyas under Vikramaditya II, they repelled the forces. Similarly, here also the Gurjara Pratiharas, they also stopped the forces of Sindh in the borders itself. This shows that here Nagabhatta I was one of the rulers, one of the important and powerful rulers. He stopped the Arabian forces. Here Vikramaditya II of Badami Chalukyas, he also stopped the Arabian forces. Later Rashtrakutas came. They were also powerful and they also completely stopped these forces. However, trade relations, peaceful relations continued throughout our history. The trade relations between Indian subcontinent and Saudi Arabia goes back to ancient times. For example, if you see Sangam age, during Sangam age itself, it was having impact relations with Saudi Arabia. Even you can go back to the Indus Valley civilization. During Indus Valley civilization also, West Asia and Indus Valley people were having trade relations. Mesopotamian, during that time, a civilization called Mesopotamia was there. Mesopotamians used to Indus people as Meluha. So this shows that peaceful relations were always there throughout our history. When it comes to invasions, often violence takes place and whoever powerful, they could control the invasive forces. Now here you have to remember Vikramaditya II, he was very powerful. He is known to our history for one more development. He successfully conquered Kanchi area as well. Before him, Pallavas conquered Badami Chalukyas region and later Chalukyas conquered Pallavas regions also. On one hand they used to fight, on the other hand they used to stop from this spot also. And also Vikramaditya II was important for our history for one more aspect. He laid foundation or he constructed two important temples during his lifetime. in Pattadakal. Those later became part of UNESCO World Heritage as well. So during this time period, Vikramaditya II time period, a lot of progress took place for Badami Chalukyan dynasty. They stopped it, and now practically the Arab forces stopped at Sindh only. In 712 they conquered, but thereafter they could not enter into mainland. Reason being the powerful empires or powerful kingdoms that were there during that point of time. They could stop these forces successfully for another 400-500 years. Or you can simply say for another 300 years they were continuously fighting. There were continuous skirmishes on the borders. However, they could not cross it. However, in thousands, situation changed. Now this time threat came from northwestern part of India in the form of Ghazni Muhammad invasions. So here we see the Arab conquest. The Arabs could reach till Sindh region. However, they could not cross beyond Sindh because of the powerful empires. However, it is going to have impact on culture between Arab culture and Indian culture. The impact is, we will see here, Nagabhatta I, that we have already discussed. He founded the imperial Gurjara Pratihara Empire and he repelled the forces, Arab invasive forces, and Vikramaditya II of Badami Chalukyan ruler, he successfully handled the invasive forces of Arab. Previous question was also asked in this aspect. The word Hindu as a reference to the people of Hind was first used by not Greeks, not Romans, not Chinese. These are the Arabs. So this is one aspect. Here afterwards, you will often find questions also in prelims and in mains as well. The impact, however, even though the military wise they could not cross beyond Sindh region, however, there was great impact on the cultures between Arab culture and Indian culture. One was cultural exchanges took place. Here, Arab culture and Indian culture, a specular development took place, that is Sindhi culture developed. Sindhi language also emerged out of this contact. Exchange of ideas and knowledge. Mathematics and astronomy works were translated into Arabic and also Persian. Persian is the language of Iranian region. So here Persian, this is the land of Arabic language. In these two languages, the Sanskrit works were translated. The works of mathematics and astronomy became so popular that in Baghdad, the people of Islamic Empire, they learned so much from Indians. Later, this knowledge went to Europe region. For example, if you take mathematics, Europeans used to call numerals as Arab numerals. Whatever we are calling 0, 1, 2, 3, Europeans called these numbers as Arab numerals. But in fact, they are the Indian numerals. From India, it went to Arabia, Arabic world, and from there it went to Europe world. So that is the cultural contact that was there continuously. Peaceful relations were always there since ancient times. Only when it comes to army invasions only, skirmishes used to take place. This is the another impact. By this time period, we are in 700s. Before 700s, if we take in the field of mathematics and astronomy, we know Aryabhatta and Varaha Mihra, they flourished during Gupta time period. That means before 700s. And after Bhaskaravan, then Brahmagupta, these were important names with respect to mathematics and astronomy. These works were translated and this knowledge went to Arab world. Advent of Islam, naturally Islam religion also became part of Indian subcontinent. The Islam already reached Indian shores during the lifetime of Prophet Muhammad himself, that we have seen. And after the advent or conquest of Sindh, now Islam spread in this region as well. Trade and commerce, anyway, it was a continuous practice, and now the trade and commerce reached to the next level. Indian philosophy, by this time period we are in 700s, that means Buddhist philosophy, Jaina philosophy, before Buddhism and Jainism, Vedic philosophy, Upanishad philosophy, all these were there. This knowledge also went into Persian world and later Arab world. Sufi leaders, a kind of sect in Islam, they learned so much from Indian saints, like yoga and philosophy. They learned so much from Indian saints or Indian sannyasis. So this is the kind of impact of Arab conquest of Sindh region. This can be a question in mains. Like how mains question can be asked, what was the impact of Arab conquest of Sindh on India and Muslim world? This is the mains question. When it comes to previous year question, we have already seen how question can be asked. This is the time period of Arab conquest, and who were the leaders or who were the rulers who stopped Arab forces, and what kind of impact of Sindh conquest had on Muslim world. Later, we have seen that Arab forces were stopped at the borders only. Now this time, after few centuries, the threat came in the form of Turkish people. In previous classes we have seen, in the first class we have seen the rise of Islamic caliphates. In the second class we have seen the rise of Turkish states. We have seen that how the term Turkish emerged and how Turkish people became very powerful. During that time, Baghdad was the capital of Muslim world. It was very powerful. Whatever knowledge, whatever wealth, whatever glory enjoyed by Baghdad. Baghdad was the capital of Abbasid Caliphate, and it used to enjoy the great respect and great power in the world. Almost to that particular city, Turkish cities emerged almost rival to the Baghdad. We have seen in the previous class. These people came from Central Asia. These two terms are important, Khorasan and Transoxiana, and they used to come from the Central Asian, and finally they used to settle in the present day Iran and present day Afghanistan. This is the region Khorasan. It is containing Iran region, Afghanistan region and Central Asian region, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, those areas. Now whoever come to this place, they used to settle in present day Afghanistan area. These developments are going to have security implications on Indian mainland. This is the reason even today also, if Taliban take the power in Afghanistan, India is so much worried. Because if there is any instability in this region, that instability is going to have security implications on India. First, it will have impact on Pakistan because it is the immediate neighborhood. Then, if Pakistan is unstable, then it is going to have huge impact on Indian subcontinent. This is why Indians should always hope for a stable government in Pakistan and Afghanistan. And that stable government should be peaceful in nature. Then only the Indian mainland become peaceful. Our history teaches so many examples. If this region is always in trouble, it is going to create trouble for India as well. Now we are in present day Afghanistan region. When Abbasid Caliphate and Umayyad Caliphates were there, they expanded their territories. Now you see, the Sindh was also part of this caliphate. Earlier Sindh was there, now Sindh became part of Abbasid Caliphate. When they tried to enter, however, Gurjar Pratiharas, Rashtrakutas were very powerful. They stopped these forces. A new kind of development took place in 800s. Arab conquest is in 700s. Now in 800s and 900s, when these caliphate Arab forces invaded Central Asian areas, they used to enslave the Turkish people or the Central Asian tribes. One of the Central Asian tribes was Turks. When they came here, they were recruited as soldiers, mainly for their strength in army, for their strength in military activities. They were recruited as soldiers and they were kept in the department of security, like the security at the doors. They used to guard the doors of these rulers. Gradually, these people many of them were slaves, Turkish slaves. Gradually, what happened? These Turkish slaves themselves became very powerful, and after few generations, They themselves acted as independent governors and finally independent kings by replacing the existing Abbasid Caliphate and other kingdoms. For example, one example is Ghazni. Ghaznavid dynasty, it was built by a Turkish slave. After him, his next generation expanded Ghaznavid kingdom into large Ghaznavid empire. Now you see the Abbasid Caliphate, once it was very big, later Abbasid Caliphate itself got disintegrated. It formed into Abbasid Caliphate, Buyid's dynasty, Ghaznavid empire. Now Abbasid Caliphate disintegrated. Buyid's dynasty, it was Iranian based. Abbasid Caliphates were based on Saudi Arabia. Now Buyids were Iranian people. Ghaznavids were Turkish people. Now you can see Arab, Iranian and Turkish people. These were the people who entered into Indian subcontinent. That is why we call it as Turkish invasions. Arab invasions, it reached in 712 up to Sindh. They were stopped successfully. But by this time period, by thousands, now the situation changed. Situation in the mainland changed completely. From 700s to thousands, powerful rulers like Gurjara Pratiharas, Rashtrakutas and Palas, they enjoyed a lot of strength in the mainland. However, they used to always fight for the territory. These fights were popularly known as tripartite struggle in our history. Tripartite means three parties, they fought for Kannauj. Kannauj was imperial capital at that time. During that time period, now we are in thousands only. Delhi was not there. Delhi was yet to be established. It was established in thousands. But before thousands, Kannauj, like Pataliputra in ancient times, till Gupta time period, Pataliputra was the very powerful capital. Later, this power and strength transferred from Pataliputra to Kannauj region. For this region, Gurjara Pratiharas, Rashtrakutas and Palas used to fight. Because of this, they themselves got weakened. And they didn't have any nation or at that time, only their particular kingdom is their world. They were not worried about what is happening at the borders. And the security of these borders were completely rest with the kingdoms that existed at the borders. Here in case, Shahis, Hindu Shahis were there. Hindu Shahis, they were protecting the northwestern part of India. So they were called as the guardians of Khyber Pass. Here there is a pass called Khyber Pass. Through Khyber Pass, invasions used to take place. In ancient times also, Alexander the Great, he also entered into mainland through Khyber Pass. Later Shakas came, Indo-Greeks came, later Shakas came, then Kushans. All these people came to Indian mainland through Khyber Pass. In this point of time, Shahis were there. They were Vedic, they were following Hinduism as their religion. Now Islam reached till this point. Initially, Ghaznavids and Shahis fought for the neighboring areas. Finally, Ghaznavid, they defeated Shahis and they could control the region up to Sindh fertile region. Now we will see Ghaznavid Empire, who was the initial person. Alp-Taigin was a Turkic slave commander of the Samanid Empire. It was an Iranian empire. Later became semi-independent governor of Ghazna from 962 to 963. Later his slave Sabuk-Taigin, he became the leader of the Ghazna kingdom and he established Ghaznavid dynasty. His son Mahmud, he made Ghazni as independent kingdom completely. Now if we take Ghazna is a location in present-day Afghanistan. In present-day Afghanistan area, Ghazna and Gori are these two areas are very important for Indian history. Ghazni is a place in Afghanistan. A leader called Alp-Taigin, he established semi-independent. Later his slave Sabuk-Taigin, he he established almost independent dynasty. But his son Mahmud, he is the one we are calling him as Ghazni Muhammad. Ghazni Muhammad, he established this kingdom as a very powerful one. Now you see, these people were Turkish slaves. Turkish slaves. Abbasid Caliphate was enjoying the full power of Islamic world. So the Islamic world always look for Abbasid Caliphate for the philosophy or for the legitimacy. Ghazni also took the legitimacy from Abbasid Caliphate. Caliph, the term Caliph means Muslims of the world respects the word Caliph. Abbasid Caliphates were enjoying the prestige. Now if Abbasid Caliphate endorses any leader, then he becomes legitimate person in his particular kingdom. If we see later, Iltutmish also, after Qutbuddin Aibak, Iltutmish comes. Iltutmish also, in order to stabilize his power, in order to gain the legitimacy, he bring the permission from Abbasid Caliphate. So same thing happened in case of Muhammad of Ghazni as well. Ghazni Muhammad also, when he emerged as independent ruler, in order to stabilize his power and in order to legitimize his power, he took permission, or this we are calling it as a permission letter. Abbasid Caliphate sent an ambassador. He gave this power that he was a Sultan of Islamic world. The title Sultan was given to him. That means now in his own kingdom he got the legitimacy. With this legitimacy, he took a vow that he wanted to expand Islam also, and he wanted to conquer the neighboring areas so that the non-believers can come to the fold of Islam. This is the kind of oath also Muhammad Ghazni took when he was given the permission, or when he was entitled with the title Sultan. Now he took the vow. Initially, his main aim was to expand his territory in Central Asia. However, he wanted to rob the neighboring lands so that he can loot the wealth and he can use it for expanding his empire in Central Asia and West Asia. This is what happened. When he wanted more wealth, always India was the place. India is known for its wealth. Now he wanted to go to India. He wanted to loot the wealth, and finally he wanted to build his own capital and expand his territory in West Asia and Central Asia. That is what exactly done by Ghazni Muhammad. Here we have seen Gurjara Pratiharas and Rashtrakutas and Palas were very powerful. They were fighting amongst each other for the Kanauj region. Finally they weakened themselves. Now only the Shahis were fighting against Ghaznavid invasions. And in this part the security was very weak. Nobody could control this region successfully, and these people do not have any idea of the security at the borders. Because of this reason, Ghazni Muhammad could come to India 17 times and went back successfully with a lot of wealth. Now we see the list of attacks by Ghazni Muhammad. In 1000, his time period is 998 to 1030. He became the king of Ghaznavid Sultanate in 998, and he was there till 1030. During this time period, now you see the important attacks he had done, he conducted. In 1000, the first attack, he defeated Hindu Shahis. We have seen here, Hindu Shahis were there and they were defeated. This is Ghazni and Kabul Shahis, and here Peshawar is there. He conquered and he defeated them, and he entered the mainland. In 1000, first attack, he defeated Hindu Shahis. In next year, Hindu Shahi ruler Jaipala was defeated. Jaipala committed suicide out of the shame. Then in 1008, Battle of Vaihind near Peshawar between Rajput Confederacy and Anandapala and Ghazni. Here this time Jaipala was committed suicide, and after him Anandapala came. Now Anandapala, he brought the forces from mainland. For example, Kanauj, Chendelas and Chauhans, they gave him help. They sent the material and men to fight against Ghaznavid forces. However, this Rajput confederacy was also failed. Battle of Vaihind was lost. Ghazni Muhammad became victorious. And he came further down, and finally he reached up to Madura, Kanauj and Somnath also. That means he reached up to Somnath, he reached Kanauj and he reached Madura. These areas were very powerful areas in those times. These important towns and cities were captured and they were completely looted. With this wealth, he went back and he made grand court in his capital, Ghazni. Looting the temples of Nagarkot, Kaneshwar, Madura, Kanauj and Somnath temple. Muhammad's rights into India were only to acquire the famous wealth of India. So he wanted to get the wealth of India only, because he wanted this wealth to maintain a grand court in his own capital, and he wanted to expand his territories in Western Central Asia. His aim was not to make the Indian territories into his empire. Only Sindh region, only up to Multan region he conquered into his territory, but he left the remaining areas. Now Ghaznavid Empire or Sultanate expanded till this point of time. He looted, now see, Tomars, Madura region and Kanauj region and Somnath temple, here Nagarkot temple. 17 times he raided successfully and he went back with a lot of wealth. His court became so popular that almost people used to compare with his court with Baghdad. Now you see, initially Ghazni Muhammad, he wanted the permission from capital of Islamic world, that is from Baghdad. He got the manumission. Manumission is the term given for the permission or the giving legitimacy to the Islamic leader. Baghdad has given this legitimacy to Ghazni. Now this is the initial position of Muhammad Ghazni. In his lifetime, he made Ghaznavid kingdom so popular that people used to flock into his court. Many scholars, trade flourished, and so many developments took place during his lifetime. Ghazni capital, the capital of Ghaznavid Sultanate, Ghazni, it became a refuge for so many talented people. And they used to compare Ghazni with Baghdad. So this is the kind of prestige he raised in his lifetime. One of the best example to show this is his court was endowed with gems like Al-Biruni, Firdausi, Al-Wudbi. These people were great scholars. Al-Biruni was a great scholar. He was polymath. Polymath means he was expert of many areas. Like he know mathematics, he know philosophy, he was a scientist, he was a mathematician, he was everything. So that person himself was, he also presented in the court of Ghazni. Firdausi, he was called as Homer of Persian. That means he has written a book called Shahnama. This Shahnama was very popular and very famous in Persian literature. So he took the legacy of Persian literature. Ghaznavid, Muhammad Ghazni became so famous that he contributed for the revival of Persian culture. He created Persian culture, he created proper conducive environment for the growth of Persian culture, and he established Persian traditions in his administration. So the Persians and the Ghaznavid people, they used to respect Muhammad of Ghazni so much in his kingdom. However, for Indians, he was a looter, he was a barbarian. He looted and he went back with a lot of wealth by killing a lot of people. So that is the kind of image Ghazni Muhammad had in the Indian mainland. However, for them, he was a hero of Islam or hero of Ghaznavid kingdom. Al-Biruni, he has written a book called Kitabul Hind. We know about these invasions from this book only. Al-Biruni, he has written this book Kitabul Hind. He came to India along with Ghazni, and he observed the developments in India, and he has written those developments in his book. This book became very important for reconstructing the history during Ghaznavid, during Muhammad times. He was often called as founder of Indology. Later, he has written his book in 1020s. In our history, we hear one more person, Rajitarangini or Kalhana. Kalhana has written Rajitarangini. It is also like a historical book, but he has written in 1148 and 49 time period. 1000 years before Kalhana, Al-Biruni has written a historic evidence or historic account about India. Because of this reason, often he was called as founder of Indology. Indology means the study of India. His life, if we see, he was born in Khorasan. Khorasan itself was annexed, or you can say looted. You can use the term. Ghazni looted Khorasan because his aim was to conquer Central Asian lands, and Khorasan is part of Iran and also Central Asia. He looted. He was part of this particular area, and he was brought to Ghazni. Ghazni is the capital of Ghazni Muhammad. However, he was already popular by this time period. Now he was not enslaved. Rather, making him as a slave, Muhammad told his followers that you leave Al-Biruni. You leave Al-Biruni to live his free life. Then he traveled to India when Ghazni forces were coming. He came as a freelance observer. That means he observed the developments of these raids, and he died in Ghazni. Once again, he went back. He lived in India for so many years, and he observed because he was a scholar. He wanted to know about Sanskrit and Indian philosophy. We have seen in the Arab conquest. The Arab conquest has opened the Indian culture and Indian knowledge to the Arabic and Persian world. Now naturally, Al-Biruni wanted to directly go and learn Sanskrit and philosophy within India itself. He did it. He learned Sanskrit, and he has written many Sanskrit works also into Persian and Arabic, and he learned philosophy also from Indian Brahmins. And he himself explained that Brahmins were so conservative, they were very reluctant to converse with foreigners. With a lot of difficulty, he had to learn the knowledge from Indians. So he himself explains his experiences with Indian Brahmins. So this kind of small details also will come from Kitabul Hind. So this is very important for Indian history to study about the history during the Ghazni Muhammad time period. This is one thing. Now you can see Ghazni, he expanded his territories and he raided into different directions. He not only looted this part of the world, his army reached the western part and central part as well. So this is about the Ghaznavid raids. One question was also previously. The purpose of Muhammad Ghazni's attack on India was to plunder the wealth of India. This is the answer. To spread Islam. The main purpose was not to spread Islam in India. To rule over the territories, it was not the reason. And his main intention was to plunder the wealth of India. And he even waived off taxes also for his own people with India's wealth. So that's the kind of wealth he looted from India. So this is also a question that was asked previously in UPSC. With respect to different rulers, a question was asked in 2021 this year itself. Now here you see from the decline of Guptas until the rise of Harshavardhana. This time period is only from the fall of Guptas to rise of Harshavardhana. In the early 7th century, which of the following kingdoms were holding power in North India? There is a map I have shown you here. Here you see Rashtrakutas, Gurjara Pratiharas, Paramaras, Chauhans. Paramaras was also one of the options there. Here we are talking about after Harshavardhana. So these developments were taking place after Harshavardhana. So Paramaras were not before Harshavardhana. The question is about before the rise of Harshavardhana. So here Paramaras of Malwa goes away. If you eliminate 2 2A goes and C also can be eliminated. Now there is an option, the Yadavas of Devagiri. They come during Alauddin Khilji. After Rashtrakutas they come here. And if you eliminate 5 also, answer is 1, 3, 4, 6. Guptas, Pushyabhutis, Maukaris and Maitrakas. They were the people who were there before Harshavardhana, after the decline of Guptas. This is how you have to connect various developments, and UPSC can ask question. Already previous year questions I have given here. Next year they can ask in this area in any way. This is about Ghajini attacks, Ghajini raids. These developments, now we have seen, previous year question also seen, to plunder the wealth of India only, not to expand Ghaznavid territories into India. But after Ghajini Muhammad Ghori came and he wanted to expand his territories into India. So this means Ghajini Muhammad raids paved the way for the rise of Islamic Empire in the northern part of India. So this is the area. Ghajini came and looted, and he exposed the weakness of Indian forces. Now the next generation, Ghori Muhammad, he came and he finally expanded his empire into mainland. Now I will show you the territory of Ghurid Sultanate. So once again, Ghori also part of Afghanistan. Ghajini is a place in Afghanistan. To the west of Ghajini, Ghori is a place. And this time, Ghajini is replaced with the power of Ghori. Now these people expanded. They completely decimated Ghajini also. Ghajini also became part of Ghurid Sultanate, and they expanded into mainland as well. So Ghurid Sultanate is the one who were responsible for the establishment of Delhi Sultanate. Ghajini raids exposed the weakness of Indian powers, and after few generations, after nearly 100 years, a new person called Muhammad, this time Ghori Muhammad, he expanded his territories into Indian subcontinent in the form of establishment of Delhi Sultanate. So this is how you have to see here in this part. We started with the Arab conquest. We have seen the Sindh became part of Arab Caliphate. Now the impact also we have seen how the Sindh conquest had impact on the cultural relations between Arabian land or the Arab land and India. And later gradually Turkish states emerged in this part of the world, and they really posed a great threat to Indian subcontinent. First in the form of Ghajini raids for looting wealth of India, and later in the form of Ghori Muhammad to expand the empire itself, and finally Indian subcontinent became part of Ghurid Sultanate. In the next class we will see the rise of Ghori and how he expanded his territories, and after expansion who were the leaders or commanders established Delhi Sultanate. Thank you.